Hello, welcome to Let's Get Uncomfortable with,
I'm Wendy Williams.
and I'm Aaron McLeod. We are so happy to be here with you on today. We're two attorneys who are committed to providing quality counsel, but more specifically to having great conversations. I met, she's affectionately known as Miss Attorney.
Yeah.
When I was a young attorney here in Chicago, took me up under her wing. We handled a few cases together, but more specifically, an excellent legal mind. But even more than an excellent legal mind, she gives great advice. So what we want to do is have some uncomfortable conversations on how we can build stronger families, stronger communities, and have some meaningful self-help conversations that's rooted in information, logic, and you don't know what you don't know. So that's why we're here, to get uncomfortable.
That's right. Let's get uncomfortable. How
Wonderful.
you doing today, Rev?
I'm doing all right,
All
Mr.
right.
Attorney. And
So
so
what do we want to start out with today?
I just want to first start out by saying thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome. Absolutely.
This has been something I want to do with you specifically for a while now.
Well, you're one of my favorite people, so why wouldn't I do it with you?
I tell you, I can listen to her talk all day, all day, all day. And with that, we had some good conversations over the years, and I've sat on the phone and I've listened to your wisdom, and I've just been like, hey, if the world could hear us talk
We said that.
uncomfortably, yeah, we want to be poised, yeah, we want to be professional, but what we really need to be is real, to talk about those critical issues of choices that we make that have a legal nexus, that have a business implication, generational implications. And sometimes we go into these situation in the word of the young lady who was talking about she was in a situation on TV,
Yeah.
Jada Pickett.
Mhm.
We go into situations not with good information, and that's when we begin the peril. That's when we begin the decline. So
It's hard, Rev. You know, we're humans. We're part of nature. I think the word is animus. You know, and so as intelligent human beings, all of us, that would be including me, we have to learn how to control our animus. I've talked with you about a lot of things, but you know, I have a wonderful chat group of very smart people, you included, and we exchange information with other lawyers, seasoned lawyers, psychologists, sports performance psychologists, child psychologists. We work in family law, in which we get psych evals, assessments, to help the court system make some decisions as to the final orders, if you will, that will be presented to the judge or agreed upon by the parties for the judge to sign off on. And but it takes a lot of wisdom and insight into your individual clients. Where do they come from? You know, what is that background? What is that trauma? What are their hopes, their dreams? How real are those hopes and dreams? And what do they understand about the people that they choose to spend time with? You know, and that would be for the family law issues. Of course, with the criminal cases, the rules are the rules. You can't do this, you can't do that. What I'm usually concerned about in those kinds of cases is why and what can we do to keep you away from the court system? I often share with you that I cannibalize my own practice. I did it a little bit this week. And but I would prefer that we have a safe, healthy society, neighborhoods, households, than to capitalize on their grief, but only if they would listen. See, that's the problem. And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about here on Let's Get Uncomfortable. We're here, we're in a situation, you're out there, And what'll be nice is you'll be in the comfort of your own home as opposed to sitting across the table from me and having to deal with this. So you can have all the reactions you need to have. You can hit pause. You can throw things at the television. And you might even think about it later on and say, you know what? Maybe that lawyer was right. Maybe I should not have done this or done that. Sometimes that's a private moment. It's hard to do that sometimes. It's called being accountable. And when you're not accustomed to being accountable, it's hard to do it face to face because you still have that fight in you, that defiance. And sometimes your ego gets in the way. And that happens to all of us. All of us.
So,
yes,
I want to talk to you. So normally what happens is I'll call Mr. Attorney and I say, hey, I got this matter that only you can handle. And with that, she is a litigator par excellence, but more specifically, you need a good attorney who has good strategic legal sense. Now, are we here to tout her accolades and say, oh, she was on law review or she clerked for this judge, that judge? That's a waste of your time. The reality is you need somebody who can come and synthesize information and come with an angle, a strategy to help you solve the problem.
A game plan.
So today, a young lady comes into my office. Unfortunately, younger
and
person.
And the names will be
anonymous
to protect. So only the person who was in the office today will know who we're talking about. Gotcha. And we're not going to mention their names.
And so with that, my practice revolves around estate planning, real estate transactions, business transactions. I'm a transactional attorney. My mind span or my attention does not allow me to go through the rigors of prolonged litigation. You can have that.
And I'm a litigator / transactional because leading up to litigation is a lot of transactional situations. And sometimes those transactional situations can resolve litigation, even long-term or, as they say, protracted litigation. But when we can't agree, we just have to go in and sit down and have a hearing and pull the jury in or choose a judge and put the evidence in front of the court and take those risks. I love clients that like to take risks though, because I can get creative. Clients who don't want to take any risk, they're not fun.
Well, hopefully those fun clients pay money too. Well, nonetheless, with that, I live for the deal. I live for the negotiation. I live for the art of negotiation, trying to get both parties to say yes. But I had an interesting situation that came into the clinic. Young lady lost her mother. Mother didn't live past 55. Younger person in school trying to make her way. And she died intestate. What does that mean? Without a writing, without a declaration of how the property should be disseminated. In particular, at the end of life, that's the will, which is filed. But more specifically, wills don't become actionable until death. What you really want is a trust. And so this young person came to me after mom died. Mom left her an inheritance that we had to go and put in her name without a proper trust. And we were able to help her. She's a younger person. She was like, hey, I want to get my affairs in order. And we did it. Signed her up, went through all the steps, asked her the questions, young, no children, full of promise. But I began to talk with her about not just being organized or estate planning or asset protection, but about who needs to know about what you own versus who you don't need to know about what you own. And so I said, are you dating anybody right now? She said, yeah, there's somebody out there. And I said, before you sign any agreements, because you are parentless now, I am not your surrogate father, but I am your attorney. I give you this invitation to have me call you before you enter into any agreements, particularly if you're deciding to get married.
Or move any real estate.
Or move any real estate. But more specifically, we started talking about this whole notion of prenuptial agreements and marriage. And so we drafted a state. We had her come in for a signing ceremony to talk about how her property would not go through the stress, the unnecessary stress of what her
and cost.
Because if we go to probate court, we're in a fraternity. It's called having a law license. And that person who's a judge, he has a law license too. He's going to approve our fees. We're going to take a percentage of that estate, and then the creditors as well. So we, want to avoid probate court at all costs if we can help it. And so she's taking those ounces of preparation, which we're paying out to be a pound of cure. But when she came to her signing ceremony, she brought her boyfriend. And I was like, well, why did you do that? Kind of felt the young man out, and she wanted him to be there. But in addition to being a lawyer, I'm really a legal educator. I love teaching the law. We began to talk with them, Miss Attorney, about the contract of marriage. And I call myself being a little witty. I call myself trying to be Miss Attorney Junior. I said, jagged edge things, come to the altar in your white dress, let's get married. And I was like, that's perfunctory. That's the distraction. It's a contract.
It's an estate.
It's an estate, yeah. And so when we talk about who to marry, who not to marry, in particular, you've defended people who have committed murder, crimes of passion against their spouse. You've defended, unfortunately, victims of domestic violence within the work that I do around immigration. I have a lot of BAWA cases for immigrants who are fleeing abuse and violence, but nobody really understands that marriage does not begin with, or should not begin with, this erotic underlay of, oh, I'm attracted to you, I want to be with you, I want to sleep with you. But for the average person, they don't understand that it's, I want to marry you, I want to build with you, I want to project the best future on our most prized possession, which are our children. And so
I want to be obligated, legally obligated to be there, to share in the assets, to share in the resources, and most importantly, to have your best interest at heart, and vice versa, and to not embarrass or embarrass you publicly. Now, when you're in the room by yourself, there's no audience. And to be able to say, I'm sorry, and really mean that. That means you're making every effort not to do that again. Too often, we're checking boxes: tall, handsome, short, handsome. The one I'm hearing now, got a retirement. Well, let me do what I want to do. I can keep my money. He's going to take care of all the bills. I'll do all the barbecuing and cooking, But what we don't figure out is whether this person is a representative that they would like for us to know and fall in love with or go into business with, as opposed to someone, when the moon changes, you've got another personality on your hands, especially a tragic, hurtful, or not hurtful, but hurting, and maybe dangerous personality. And so, as I always tell you, if I could advise, I want to do a billboard that says, before you get married or pregnant, call me. And that's a lot cheaper than the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of dollars in years you spend in litigation. I mean, Rev, I've practically raised some kids. I remember entering a case where the kids were this high to me. By the time the case was over, in terms of what I was doing on the case, the kids were taller than I was. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
believe it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would want someone in my life for that long that was not part of my marital estate or part of my emotional and financial support system, because the lawyers are not. And I tell clients all the time, you don't want the system raising your children. You don't want the lawyers and judges telling you what you and your spouse or you and your significant other or you and the co-parent need to be discussing. So I rarely, because you practice in an area where people are coming to you to build their future, prenups and living trust and wills and things of that nature, estate planning. So you would have more of an opportunity. I'm usually coming in after the fact.
To clean up the mess.
I'm here to clean up the mess. And one of the things that I like to get with is that I like for my clients to trust me, that I'm coming from 30 years of experience as a lawyer. And then I've got, as I often tell my clients, I'm gonna put you in my business to show you I'm human. I got scars, from making mistakes. And you're about to make the same mistake that I made. I'm looking at you. Your mother used to say, I'm looking at you. You're doing the same thing. So we wanna, if you'll let us, there are some lawyers, they don't care. But there's some of us out here that do care whether you're getting good advice. And so I know you're going to talk to me a little bit about what I share with people in advice, because I've already done a family show. And I always open with, is this a relationship in which there is financial fitness and emotional fitness? I think you see it sometimes in the bookstores now as emotional intelligence, maybe financial intelligence, but I'm going to talk about fitness. And I learned about that from a friend of mine who's a psychologist, and she is a sports performance psychologist. She says she'd love to come on the show.
All right.
And so she deals with the contracts that she sees, especially now in the NFL and the NBA. They have character fitness. They don't want anybody on the team that's going to embarrass the team. Simply put, I mean, I can go into all the different things they don't want, but they don't want to be embarrassed. They want the team to have a good reputation in the community, showing some leadership, not in every way. They're not responsible for everyone that's watching the game, but at least there is some fitness that when you present yourself to the public. Well, I thought about that once. I was talking to my friend who's a sports performance psychologist. She actually sits on the team with the coaches. She's part of the coaching staff.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. And so what happens is she's able to share with the coaches whether this person is ready emotionally, whether the team is collectively ready to play together and that kind of thing. So I came up with emotional, because we talked about marriage being an estate. So there's emotional fitness and there's financial fitness. And then you have to be ready to fill in those gaps. And that other person has to appreciate the fact that you're filling in the gaps, and they have to meet each other in the middle. You may want that purse, or you may want that trip, or you may want those golf clubs, or you may want that sports car. But have we taken care of all the other things? And I can tell you from my own personal experience, that was a hard road. That was a hard road. I had to learn that. And, we all do.
We all do. You don't know what you don't know, right? I think that you give a phenomenal analogy of the sports fitness. For those who know sports, right? I grew up playing basketball. Pickup was a big thing, and to be picked up, first choice, second choice, but to be on the floor playing pickup showed that there was some value in what you brought to the team. Now, even when we got into playing organized sports, high school, which is, highly regulated. You had your system, you ran your offense, you ran your defense, your plays, right? Everybody had a role. And so within that, the masses don't understand because nobody really tells them about it. Arguably, these are private conversations, that when you look at the contract of marriage, historically within the common law, it was really about the benefit of the children coming together, making sure that the progeny went to another level, right? And so within that, there's only one Michael Jordan. You had to have, Luke Longley down there to get the rebounds, Scottie Pippen, Grant Hill defense, like
Horace Grant.
The marriage is a contract, it's a team. Like, a family member always says, there can only be, one pretty person in marriage, or, the whole competition is superficial as that may sound, but the whole notion of even the competition, not so much about the phenotype and the style and the looks, but I'm a lawyer, you're a lawyer. I remember, and I'll get personal here, my first marriage, me and my former wife were in competition to see who's going to be the college president the first, right?
Oh.
And so as innocent, or as, I guess normal as we thought that was, it was really abnormal because no one had ever sat us down to say, okay, how do you prospect a mate? Outside of, the person looks a certain way.
That's a good word, prospect.
Yeah. How do you prospect the mate, and is the person right for you? And, what Jerry Maguire, I remember I was in a Bible study one time, and gentleman was saying, I hate the term or the cliche from "she completes me." You arguably should be complete in your own self.
Co-independent, not codependent.
Correct.
But co-independent. Two independent, fit, emotionally fit and financially fit, with a mutual understanding of how we're going to conduct the estate. Because you spend more time out of the bed than you do in.
Yeah. And so what do we mean by estate, right? That's your stuff that you own. Your house, your car, your investments, insurance policies, all those things, right? Your stuff.
Pots and pans, as they call divorce court sometimes.
Yeah. And even when we talk about financially fit, right, emotionally fit, it's still relative to the couple, still relative to the person, right? Most people of means, men within a patriarchal lens, those who have it, arguably outside of the African-American context, when you look at the societal emasculation of Black men.
Suppression of our income.
Of our income, right?
That's huge.
Very huge. Come on, color of money.
Color of law. And color of money.
Color of money.
And color of compromise.
And compromise, yes.
As you watch this show, we will be giving you books to read, and Color of Law is one of them. The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein.
Yes, great read. And
the Bible, actually.
Yeah. And ultimately, with that, we're looking, that person of means is not going to break their mind about their partner having the same, if there's enough to go around. But that's not everybody's reality. What you bring to the table, what they bring to the table helps raise up, but more specifically, your dreams and their dreams need to match up as well. Because at any time when somebody is feeling inadequate or taken for granted, there's going to be a reaction.
Yeah. And you know how I feel about that. We can get into the emotional fitness piece now. In many cases, the person brings their childhood to the marriage. Great book by a doctor who's now deceased, may his soul rest in peace, Dr. John Bradshaw. Loved him, out of Houston, Texas.
Great book.
And the name of his book was Healing the Shame That Binds You. And Homecoming. My life took a beautiful turn after my marriage, because I used that book as I went through a therapeutic process to process not just why I didn't stay married, why I'm sitting here in divorce court. I needed to process why I didn't see that this wasn't the right person. and why I was not a fit for him.
So it's bilateral. It's not one way. It's
Oh
not
my
good.
God, yeah.
It takes two to be crazy or to be a fit.
I tell guys all the time, you're not gonna like me. I'm gonna bow out now. You are not gonna. I'm not your type. You just know. You know, the physical thing. That's only the first stage, but the other boxes have to be checked. Childhood issues, childhood traumas. Did you take care of those childhood traumas before you got into the marriage? Otherwise, you're bringing that into the marriage. My mother always said, well, your mother is not in this marriage. I'm in the marriage with you. But I need to hear, what did your mother always say? And I'm listening to that probably within the first 30 days. You know, I'm giving it away now. I probably won't be able to date again. But, you know, I need to know in the first 30 days, who are you? What was it like growing up with mom and dad? You know, that's I need to copyright that. What was it like growing up with mom and dad? See, this is the part of the show where you're starting to get uncomfortable because you're checking all these boxes. Beautiful, charming, handsome, can dance, knows how to meet the public. That's a real dangerous one. The one that knows how to meet the public also knows how to meet you. What I want to know is, what do you like when we get behind closed doors? And how did you get there? What was it like growing up with mom and dad? What kind of interaction did you see between your mother and father that you found not attractive, not useful, unfit? You know, a lot of individuals, they have parents who are unfit, but through a process of therapy and all those things, they clean that up. Because I always tell people, I said, you know, you look for these 4 boxes, and we'll get into those 4 boxes as the show goes on. But you look at these 4 things, it's not an eliminator. It's to assess whether or not you've done something about it. You know, were you abused as a child? So what did you do about that before you drag that into? So when I squeezed the toothpaste, you remember growing up with a military father who popped you on the head every time you squeezed it. Well, I might squeeze the toothpaste like this, and I'm not going to get popped on the head. And we're not going to let that distract us. And I can't be a caregiver and a partner in the relationship. And that's real subtle, ladies and gentlemen that are listening out there. Think about what I'm saying. You go into these relationships to build an estate, but part of the attractiveness about building the estate is the exclusive fun that you can have. You know, the living, the laughing, the laughter, we both like to roller skate. I overheard a conversation once. I was out, and the guy says, he's listening to 2 guys saying, oh, such and such getting divorced, man. And this guy's just looking down in his drink and stirring it. And they look at him and he says, I can't get a divorce. My wife is my dance partner. And she's one of the best steppers in Chicago. I ain't never letting her go. So whatever she wants to do that keeps that relationship there, that's what I have to do. And sometimes it's not 50-50. Sometimes it might be 60-40. You know, sometimes it might be 70-30. You don't know how that match comes. At 80-20, 90-10. But some people, and you know those people because you see them every day on television and newspaper, where they're giving 90% and the partner is giving a critical 10%.
And it's everything.
And it's everything. It's the rock. It's the anchor. Or the 90% can be not as important. Excuse me, the 10% may not be as important as the 90%, but you're not belittled. You're not shunned, and you're not shamed because all you had was 10% to contribute to the Rockefeller estate. But there may be something about you that person likes, and that 10%, it might be purely aesthetic. We see that a lot of times with celebrities. You know, I need her to be beautiful. She doesn't need to be smart. I'm smart enough for both of us. And that relationship may last forever. On the other end of the spectrum, I've seen drug dealer, drug addict. They'll stay in a relationship longer than 2 doctors, 2 lawyers, a lawyer and a doctor, because they have this is bad now. They have what they call compatible problems. You're the drug dealer. I'm a drug addict. We're bonded. You find situations like that. and in psychology, I think they call it compatible problems. Well, shucks, if it's working for you, it's working for you. I'm not advocating drug use. Let me get that straight.
Or drug dealing.
Or drug dealing. We're going to get uncomfortable. We're going to get that uncomfortable. But, you know, so you got to find out how you are compatible, how you fit. Are you 60, 40, 70, 30? Are you 50, 50? And can you understand that? But most importantly, are you dragging trauma from your childhood into my daddy? I had a guy tell me this. He said, my mama put up, I won't say what the foolishness is, but my mama put up with this foolishness. I wonder why you don't put up with the foolishness, because I said, you were raised in a household where that's happening, brother. But that wasn't happening in my household. You know what I'm saying? And I think I can make a better contribution to a relationship. Your mother made the contribution that your father wanted and needed, and she mutually met that, and it was a compatible problem, trust me. Not the one we were talking about earlier, but it was a compatible problem. And she was willing. But I'm not your mother. So if you're looking for someone like your mother, then it wouldn't be me. Yeah.
And I think that there's some conversations that we need to have with our children about not
raising them.
About not expecting your spouse or that partner to be just like them. But then again, you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know until, and this is what this show is about. Let's get uncomfortable. We want to tell you how to approach that.
Definitely.
Let me repeat that again. We really do want you to know what a plan looks like.
Yes.
So the young lady that comes into your office, I would have probably said, you can sign these documents now and sign these documents later. And I'm going to need you to come back in for another consultation. And I'm going to do all that I can not to say, but leave brother man at home or come when he's at work. Because first of all, you're not married to him now. Second of all, we got to see where he is. And that equally yoke is not always money. That equally yoke is an understanding as to that 60-40, 70-30, 90-10, or 50-50, or 75-25 looks like. And if you're okay with that, and that's up front. And then sometimes I tell people, especially who have children, the children are going through different phases, right? Once upon a time, I used to hear people say, well, children didn't come with instructions. No, they didn't. But they do have some instructions at the library.
Yeah, you got to read.
Got to read. So the name of the magazines are like Baby, a magazine called Adolescence, a magazine called Teens, magazines called 17, and the last magazine was Family Vacations. And I couldn't believe, I said, we really do need the insight and examples that you find in those books. So, in those magazines. And I used to spend hours when the magazines were really in the stores. I used to go to a magazine. I used to go to the store and I'm reading the magazines for hours. And then I buy the ones that I need to take home. And then I learned to order those magazines. Psychology Today is my favorite. Some of the financial magazines are okay. But in our community, we really need specialized financial advice, because our incomes at any moment in the arc of the American economy, our incomes can be suppressed in
Definitely
ways
can.
That other communities don't feel.
Especially if we're not producing goods or services.
Well, and especially if we don't have a base. The base was supposed to be 40 acres and a mule. Okay, when we didn't get that base, now what are we resting our finances on? Yeah,
but what does that say to?
So you got to get 40 acres even if you don't need the mule.
And I hear that. I believe in reparations. I want us to have reparations, right?
I won't say reparations. Just go out and buy yourself some property.
The reality is that people,
until reparations become a reality in America.
There are people inside and outside of the African diaspora who come to this country without the base. They excel.
They excel, and that's because they come out of a system in which they can build on that. And they might even be sitting on land in a foreign country. But there's something psychological about having a connection to someplace else in case this doesn't work.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, that someplace else pales in comparison to what we have here, even though we're treated like strangers in our own home. I am not negating that at all.
No.
But what I am saying is this. We cannot be bound to a W-2 situation, working for somebody else and think that it's ever going to be solid.
Right, but we also have to understand that if periodically the economy has these ups and downs, you know, a gig economy does not bring you health insurance. A gig economy does not, a gig economy type job, I should say. They give you the 1099, but what is your budget looking like? How much can you reduce it by? But then inflation can drive it back up. You know, I was joking with some lawyers that had retired, and I said, what are you doing back in the courtroom? I said, what did eggs cost at the time you retired? You know, so that retirement is fixed. But if inflation keeps eating away at it, you have to make adjustments.
Now, I'm going to go back to some advice that you gave me, if I can be uncomfortable and be real. For marriage, child support. I feel liberated, not so much that I did not want to support my son, but more specifically, I did it. He's in college now.
Congratulations.
And doing well. The whole point in saying that is when it came time to pay more of a child support, we had a conversation about, I guess, the people you had seen in your practice who were volunteering more support and substance.
Oh, yeah.
And
2 or 3 times I saw that.
Yeah. Within the white context, if we can just be.
Well, no. And even within our community.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. I had a police officer once. He knew his wife was a piece of work. So when we did the calculations, all he had to give her was $498 a month. He was giving her $800. He said, because I know I've lived with her for 12 or 13 years. I know she's going to need $800.
Yeah. Now, I don't know what time that is, but my child support was almost 3 times that.
Oh, right. Well, that was a long time ago. Right.
So, and my point in saying that is the only reason why I got comfortable with that is because you looked me in the eye.
Yeah.
As a Black woman, professional,
These
mother,
are your kids.
and you said you never, ever bemoan as an attorney about bills. Go make some more money.
And I got to tell you who told me that. I got that
from I love you for that. Let me just stop it.
He said,
go make more money.
Don't cut back. What I said, the saying is, don't cut back, go make some more money. So when I look at my own budget, I say, woo, I'm running out of money. I got to go make some more money. Don't cut back, because that's not going in the prosperity direction.
Correct. But to your point, not so much that I disagree with you, but it was a mindset. And you helped me at a critical point in my life. I don't worry about healthcare. I'm going to go out and pay for it.
Well, as long as the people we're talking
and then the
to
gig
out
economy
there
can do it.
Yeah.
I have a client now, just amazing story. Recidivism, not an issue, has gone out, is running a legitimate business to the tune of $500,000+ million a year. Gig economy. And he has more cash, disposable, even write-offs, all of that stuff.
His investments, his insurance, his health insurance, his
than
homeowner's
a person
insurance,
working
car
as
insurance.
On a fixed income.
On a fixed income, yeah. Because if you can do it. Now, old school.
Everybody can't do it.
Right. Old
But
school,
mindset will
yeah,
allow you to do it.
yeah. Old school was two people sat down and said, "Look, can you hold down the job at Chicago Public Schools while I start this business?" And respect him or her that's doing that. And even on some occasions, do you want that purse? Do you want those golf clubs? Then I'm gonna make a sacrifice to get it for you, or work a little harder. As I said, don't cut back. Go make some more money, because we live in that kind of, what they call it, free capitalistic economy. So you can do that, and you respect the fact. I think I think I can say this. I guess I won't call the comedian's name, but we have a comedian that came out of this area of Chicago whose wife did that while they built their career as a comedian, and then they just blew up.
Well, it's a team approach.
It's an understanding. It's more than just a team, because some people may be over, I need you for the pick and roll, and you over there. You know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is, it is a team approach, but it's a mindset. It's a mindset, in my opinion. It's a mindset where your heart is in it. Your heart is in it. My heart is in going out and making more money. So, because her birthday is coming, or Father's Day is coming, and I saw these golf clubs, and I really want to get those golf clubs for him, or I want to get him some new tires on his car, and or I want to get him that Rolex watch for his birthday. It may not be the bling bling Rolex, but maybe I can get him, the watch that he wanted. I saw a movie once, and that's something else we want you guys out there to know. When I went to college, I had a humanities teacher. I'm not going to say his name on the air. It's a long time ago anyway. And he had us watching movies. And after class, I was like, why are we watching movies? He said, because art imitates life. So there's a story I'll call I Remember Mama. Black and white film. You catch it on Turner Classic. She constantly lied, a good lie, to her kids that we have to see what money we have here in our little tin box, because we don't want to have to go to the bank. Now later on, I'm not spoiling the story for you, because it's a good story. Lots of things are going on, but there was never a bank. But she had the kids come to the table and figure out who's going to get the new coat this winter, who's going to get the boots, or who's not going to get the coat, so somebody can get the books that they need or college. And everybody was satisfied with that. That's the kind of approach you take as you build. And if you're not able to do it, and there was a time in my life I couldn't. And then later on in my life, I understood where he was coming from. And I don't know if I've apologized to him or not. Maybe one day I need to sit down and say, you know what, I knew where you were coming from, but the delivery, the way he delivered it to me was unsettling for me, and that's, you see what I mean? See, this is the uncomfortable part, you know? When we talk about this show being Let's Get Uncomfortable, we're putting you in our business sometimes. You know what I'm saying? So you can see that we get real uncomfortable looking back at maybe relationships that were good for me. But then again, they brought something. So it was so much compromise. I remember going to a church in another state, and he said, I'm not marrying anybody until you go through premarital counseling with us for 18 months. A lot of people didn't survive it, but guess what? He wasn't doing a lot of weddings. And he said, I'm not going to do these weddings if you guys can't get through this premarital counseling program for 18 months.
So prior to going to law school and divinity school, and I took this course in divinity school called Ministry Meaning Making. And there was a husband and wife couple within the African-American context, Ray Hammond and his wife, I want to say Dolores Hammond, both doctors. Dr. Hammond, Ray Hammond, had finished Harvard College at age 19, went on to Harvard Medical School. His wife Brandeis, I think Boston University Medical School, but they were in Boston, the creme de la creme, not, arrogant people, not hoity-toity folk, just good Black folks who led, a small AME church that has now grown to scale. And during one of our, colloquiums on pastoral counseling, which I hated, by the way, the thing I wanted to do was get up and preach, right? Or learn preaching or study preaching, right? He said, we want you to be as skeptical about that person you're going to marry until the day before, even if you leave them at the altar, because it will be better for you in the long run. I remember I used to serve at a large church here in Chicago. Thank God for that opportunity, Trinity United Church of Christ. And we had protocols there. That church had phenomenal systems. And we had a couple who came in and they claimed that they had been shacking and they wanted to be right and wanted to be right with God. And they wanted us to come in and do a shotgun wedding. Couldn't do it. It was against our policy.
Right.
And there's like, well, we want to be right. We don't want to be sinning. And it's like, it's more to that than that. There's a process. And so from time to time, people will call me and ask me to perform their ceremonies because, they think I'm a good preacher or I'm a thoughtful orator. And I tell them, I would love to do that on the condition that you go and see Reverend Barbara Hurd or some other person and have a certificate that you've completed marital counseling. Why? I mean, my time is my time. I get up to, put the homily together and be special and be a part of the fanfare, and you'll pay me whatever you pay me. And if you don't, it's not about the money. That's not going to be on my conscience that you haven't done the work and we sat there and took great pictures and you're divorced. Yeah. And I'm calling you and say, hey,
can you do the divorce? Which one do you want to represent? The wife or the husband? This particular pastor considered him Reverend, I think it was pastor. He considered himself a pastor. So he did all of the sermons, but he had an executive pastor who was exactly a doctor license of psychology. So they had the DUI programs that the state certified. They had the premarital counseling, domestic violence programs certified by the state. So as a lawyer in that state, I could send my clients to that church. And ultimately, some of them joined because they were there at a time where there might have been a service before or a service after. And so they got some of that too, some of that spiritual guidance, some of that, let me really think about this. But I've seen people go through the premarital counseling, and what they were not told to do is really investigate your own childhood trauma, so you make sure you don't bring that to the relationship. Does someone have to completely resolve their childhood trauma before they go into a marriage? No, but you do have to make a commitment that you will not let that trauma impact you. You just can't do it to her. You can't do it to him. And what are you doing in the meantime? You might be on medication. You might be seeing a therapist once a week. And who you present to the therapist, you download all of that into the therapy session, and you don't come home and sock somebody in the jaw because you remembered how your mother, smacked you upside the head or burned your edges or, and doing your hair or said something uncomplimentary. In my business now, said something uncomplimentary about your looks or something like that. And so you can't take that out on the intended or the object of your affection. And for the ones who like to be caregivers, I had a book called, it was written by Dr. Aaron Brine, and the name of the book was Emotionally Unavailable. Yeah, I told you we were going to give you some good books here. Aaron Brine. emotionally unavailable. And they had all these different combinations. You always hear about Captain Save the Girl.
Mm-hmm.
You hear about the woman who she just gonna give and give and give to her man, no matter how many times he goes to jail,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how many times she's got to move out of her home, sell it so she can get bond money. And no.
Mm-hmm.
Or did you sell your house so he could finish medical school? And did he appreciate that? Put you in my business. I remember my stepfather telling my mother, you can stop working now. I'm going to buy these cars. The house is paid off. You can stop working.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, my mother hasn't worked since then.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She has not worked since then. But he remembered the value she added.
Mm-hmm.
And she was also comfortable that she would not be used or abused because of the sacrifices that she made. Mm-hmm. So what do we call that word? The T word? It was a trust thing. Mm-hmm. The person was worthy of trust. He made sure that he kept his promise, and my mother's marriage was a good one. Mm-hmm. In fact, my mother's been lucky. All her marriages have been good. Mm-hmm. Because they don't make men like that anymore. Mm-hmm. At my age, I think I squeezed by. I had the last of them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. At my age, because I'm over 50. So I had the last of the Mohicans. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, we are looking for needles in a needle stack. It's not even needles in a haystack. It's needles in a needle stack where you have that mutual trust. Mm-hmm. You refuse to embarrass that person. You refuse to hurt their feelings. Wasn't there a song once, I'd rather do it to myself before I do it? Mm-hmm. We had those blues songs in our community. Those men lived by those songs. Mm-hmm. We're not going to even talk about the music today and what kind of, how discouraging that music is. Mm-hmm. And the lyrics, where it's no wonder R&B is still on tour, because there's songs there that talk of love and appreciation, you're my girl, just my imagination is running away with me. Mm-hmm. Remember when there was enthrallment in the love making in the songs. But now today it's just use and abuse.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Because music is so key to our culture.
Yeah.
Music
fuels our spirit. I never forget right. Theologian Jeremiah Wright shared a story, in essence, crystallizing the point that if there's no music, the spirit will not come. It fuels the soul. And the things,
soul music.
Yeah. And the things that we do, that we say, men and women, to objectify the other, it really does something to the psyche, whereby we are doing ourselves in. So you're right. And the sad thing is, I heard that about my generation coming up, and now I'm looking at the other generation, not down on them, but really trying to empower them, because unfortunately, for men, if you have swag and some good sense, you can make it, even within a parasitic relationship with a woman to quote unquote hold you down. Sisters, on the other hand, it is a hard dynamic, a hard road to toe. But as we wrap up here, let's, you
want to hear my 4 things?
Yes, let's hear 4 things.
So now we're getting ready to get uncomfortable.
All right.
I always suggest that as you're checking off the boxes of he's got a retirement, he's beautiful, he's wonderful, he's on stage, he sings, he dances. Let's see what else. He plays with my hair. These are the things I've actually heard. That's why I'm using. He rubs my feet. He loves my kids. He takes care of my kids better than they daddy take care of the kids. Just check. And I've seen the dark side of that in criminal assaults
Yeah.
and murder and all of that with somebody that's taking better care of your kids than you are and all that. And I'm gonna have this baby whether you want it or not. We've seen the dark side of that. So what are the 4 things that I think going into a relationship are important boxes to check? 1, we got to look at that childhood from 0 to 12. Just got to. And I'm not making this up. There's a book called Black Pain by Terry Williams. There's all the books by John Bradshaw, Dr. John Bradshaw, Houston, Texas. What was the Eastland Clinics out in California. And there's some more people, but the 4 things, you got to get at them. And you don't have to be, you can be, charming about it. You don't always have to be, overbearing with it. I mean, because, if that person doesn't meet your need or your, your desires or aesthetic desires or otherwise for a relationship, doggone, they can be a friend. You know what I mean? So we have whether or not the person was raised up in a family of violence, victim or perp. And I've seen it all go bad on both sides. When they enter into a marriage and they haven't resolved that. The next one is addictions, all of them soft, from gambling, smoking, eating, religion. I saw a list once, it was so long, I said, what is an addictive? Gossip, and we all know the standard hardcore ones, drugs, alcohol, abuse, mentally, physically. You got to find out if the person was raised up in that environment, especially between 0 and 12, because those are your formative years. And then what's the other one I always tell you about? Habitual criminal activity. The world famous, Uncle Rob or, Uncle Terry, he's in and out of jail. I don't know if I want to leave my kids over here, with your brother, being in and out of jail, and your mother's always in denial about why the system got my son in. No, the kids ain't coming over here. In fact, we ain't having no kids. In fact, we ain't gonna even be in a relationship because I see your family and I can't have my vulnerable children in that environment, learning things I don't want them to learn. I have a tragic story where the kids never knew anything about guns. They got involved with guns because of the uncle, and ultimately the boy died from a gun injury. And I heard the mother say, he introduced us to guns. So where's the 4? Mental. If you have to have a mood stabilizer to be happy, I'm out. And if you can't contain that to your therapy, I'm out. I mean, because I'm in this for the roller skating, the laughter, the movies, the trips out of town. And I can't take you anywhere because your mood will shift because you didn't take your medication or you didn't know you needed an assessment to take medication. Are you bipolar? Are you schizophrenic? Some of the other, are you a narcissist? Which there's no healing for that. Are you a sociopath? There's no healing for that. So the 4 are habitual criminal activity, unstable moods, which I just lump under mental illness, victims, perpetrators or victims. And the last one is the violence. And then what was the last one? I always remember habitual criminal, mental addictions, and violence.
Trauma.
Violence.
Gotcha.
Because I've seen victims turn into perpetrators.
All right. Well, we want to thank you.
Are you uncomfortable now?
We want to thank you for tuning into The Uncomfortable Show. We will be back here on a regular basis. Myself, I'm a revenue attorney. This is Miss Attorney Wendy Williams. I'm attorney Aaron J. McLeod. We're so humble to be here and to have these conversations. Thank you, my dear, for being here, partnering with me on this show.
Yes.
Takeaway: marriages are contracts. All right. They're agreements. All right. And they need not be entered into lightly. You need to understand who it is you're getting into with. You need to have some criteria by which you judge them. See you the next time on Let's Get Uncomfortable.
Let's get uncomfortable.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ. WVTC, Allsip, Chicago. An iNetworks communication station.